it's just kicking in. Yeah. All right. Welcome everyone to the Platform Convergence series. Today we are doing session number 2 of our series of sessions, which is focusing on the platform convergence and what's coming new. Today, just before we start, a few disclaimers that the views expressed in these sessions are from the speakers and they do not represent the view of their employers or Microsoft. And it's based on their experiences and sharing with the community so that everyone can learn and grow. And during these presentations, we are using trial environments. We are not using any customers' environments. These session of series are brought to you by collaboration of 3 user groups, which are focused on connecting Dynamics 365 professionals across the globe. ANZ D365 FinOps team, which focuses more on the professionals in Australia and New Zealand region. D365 UG India, which is focusing on connecting the people of India region, and Pakistan user group, which is focusing on the Pakistan experts of Dynamics 365. Although these groups have same and common objective, we want as many as Dynamics professional across the globe to join us and learn and grow together. As a part of these session series, we are conducting 5 sessions. Today we are on session number 2. We can see the speaker board, which comprises of multiple Dynamics 365 experts from different experiences and backgrounds coming together to share with the community. Today we have Tim Shaw from Microsoft, Faisal from Barhead, and myself from PwC, who will be running the session. Just before we start with this session today, I want to take a couple of minutes to summarize what we did in session number 1. So session number 1 was driven by Preeti Singh from Velrada. She's based in Melbourne, and myself, where we talked about what is platform convergence. We understood what is Dataverse and its concept. And then Preeti showed us the demonstrations by creating some tables in Dataverse, by creating relations, roll-up fields, calculative fields. And then she showed us how to create a model-driven app based on those tables. And I will be using that model-driven app today again during my demo part as we cover. And that basically set all of us up with a baseline understanding of what is Dataverse and model-driven apps, so that we can continue with these sessions. So once again, a big round of applause to Preeti Singh for showing us all these wonderful things and taking out her time from her busy schedule. What we will be doing today will be around the platform convergence roadmap. We will do a demo on how the UI unification looks as of today. Faisal and Tim will share some lessons learned from real-time implementations. We will then summarize and do some Q&A. We will have ample of time for that today. Quickly meet your speakers today. We have Tim Shaw, who is from Microsoft, based in Brisbane, the sunny side. We are a bit jealous of him because he can go out and the weather is really nice there. And then we have Faisal from Barhead, myself from PwC. I and Faisal are based in Melbourne. So without holding and taking up more time, I will hand it over to Tim to start and show us what he has for us and talk about the platform convergence roadmap. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tim. Thank you. Over to you, Tim. I think you're on mute, Tim.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was just trying to get the slide shared, so you can see the slide as well?
Yes, we can see the slide. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to talk today. I think for me, I've been involved in Dynamics before Dynamics since about 1997. So I've been around for a long time. I've been, like some of you, I've been out there actually doing first implementations for the first time in various sort of industries over the years. I've worked for partners. I've worked for Microsoft twice. Actually, this is the second time I've worked for Microsoft. And before 97, I actually worked in PIC-based systems and before then Xenix-based systems. So I've been around for a little while, but I do come from industry and I come from wholesale distribution around electronic manufacturing, because when I was a young person, my dream was to be an electronic engineer. And then I found that, to be honest, a little bit boring. So I got involved more in computers, but I really kind of grateful to be actually involved in this today, because I think communities are super important. And especially in these times, it's good to connect with people and talk with people and share stories and help each other. So I'm going to talk about unification. As most of you would know, and I think someone mentioned before, we're at the month of October is the month when Microsoft makes new announcements and releases new functionality. So I don't have access to all of that, so I won't be talking about anything that's about to be talked about. So things may change slightly over the next couple of weeks, but I wouldn't expect so in this topic. So let me just start talking about what we've come here to talk about today, which is unification or convergence. Hopefully you can't hear that dog. Can you hear the dog barking?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a bit, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'll just go and close the door, actually. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
This is what COVID does. We all get used to working from home. Every now and then during the week, I have a young one that comes up and grabs me in the middle of presentations. But he's out at the moment, so we should be safe from him. But for some reason, the dog has seized on and decided to start barking, so she should be a little bit quieter now, which is good. Okay, so back to what we're talking about. So we're talking about convergence and unification. So I'll give an example of more of a recent challenge that I've helped a partner with, and that is around something called project operations. So project operations is one of the very first real apps that we've released that actually uses customer engagement and finance and operations. So as a result, we've got customer engagement on one side here, which is handling everything from project sales to time entry. And this is a scenario of project operations called non-stock resource. So in that scenario, we use everything from project sales, project planning, resource management, time entry. And then we also use components of expense, invoicing, revenue recognition, and project accounting from finance and operations. So we're using two of the different platforms to do the customer scenario. What that actually does bring to the table is when I'm setting up customer engagement, I'm dealing with security, I'm dealing with users, I'm dealing with how I deploy the functionality, I'm dealing with data, I'm dealing with consultants, and etc. Right? And on the finance and operations side, it's the same thing, different set of security, different set of user setup, different deployment, different set of data, and different set of consultants. So what we've done is we've used dual write in the middle of this to take data from customer engagement and put that in finance operations. And we've also doing that the other way, we're taking data out of finance and operations and bringing that to customer engagement. But it really comes down to the scenario that the customer is using, which is very important. How does the customer use the system in a seamless way to conduct their work? So if I'm a project manager, how do I do all my tasks without without the feeling that I'm jumping from one system to another system? In the scenario that I talk about, in my experience with this, I was actually at a customer here in Australia, large customer that was implementing this particular product, and the partner was having challenges because the customer engagement side. Sorry, I'm going to have to do something. 2 seconds. Sorry, guys.
Take it easy. Give him some bones and give him some treats, huh?
Dogs are also normal attendees nowadays, calls, right?
So that's fine. I think, yeah, I'd be missing him, but yeah, it's our normal life now. Yeah. So guys, please feel free to post any questions during the chat, during the show in the chat window. We can take them when we get a chance. Tim, you can take some water, take a break. No stress.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, good. Thanks.
It's actually quite warm here today. So all right, so back to this. So
yeah.
The challenge we were having is we had a consultant on site that was implementing finance and operations. and they were trying to set up the dual write between customer engagement and finance and operations. And because in customer engagement, we use a plugin to do tracing, and because customer engagement is different, they were really struggling sorting out this particular issue. And then on vice versa, when we had the person from customer engagement trying to sort it out by themselves, they were struggling because they only had one part of the picture. They knew what was happening in customer engagement, but they didn't know what was happening in finance and operations or know how to actually troubleshoot it. So the challenge comes is how do we as Microsoft make this easy for our partners and easier for our customers to actually implement the systems like this. I'll give you another example. So I worked on quite a large project in New Zealand for about 18 months. And in that particular project, we had the customer wanting to do customer service. So they wanted to implement customer service out of customer engagement side, but they were also implementing finance and operations. And so what we did as a team is we had what was called a cross-domain solution architect. And that role of that cross-domain solution architect was to bridge between the teams that were implementing customer engagement and the teams that were implementing finance and operations. So to make sure that when they're designing the system, they're taking into account both sides of the requirements, right? So we were doing that implementation. Part of the requirement came up as we were implementing the product is they had the requirement to actually be able to tag invoices when a customer was disputing it. So you can think of it as from a customer service perspective. You want one customer service front, and you want to be able to go through workflows to solve customers' issues. In customer engagement, you have customer service. You can manually type all that in. In finance and operations, you can go and raise a case and tag an invoice against it. So we had to work out how do we actually give that one scenario. What was also evident out of this particular project was even though we had aligned, the customer had it. So the customer had different people doing different things. And as a result, the customer wasn't actually bridging across, well, we're doing this on the manufacturing side, but we don't know what's actually happening on the CRM side. So we actually had to bridge the whole story. Now, that's just from an implementation perspective, but I think from a technology perspective, we need to enable our customers with a better experience in one area and not going to multiple systems that are different. And that's kind of where the concept of unification and convergence is coming from. Okay, so there is an approach that we're taking. We're being opportunistic about this. We're not rewriting things. So if we're not moving finance and operation to Dataverse, so we're not migrating the product like that. We are taking a crawl, walk, run approach. And I think we've learned from dual write that we need to take things a little bit slower and test and make sure it's going to work in scenarios that our customers are going to do before we take off and push it out everywhere. We are saying new work should, and the word should there will be, should be aligned with the Power Platform. And we're going to continue investments in the X++ development, right? So we're not saying we're going to move everybody to one coding platform at this point, but we are saying that we're trying to align and get that administration in one area. So when we look at this and we look at the approach and things we're doing, and we've already delivered some of this. So you know of dual write, and if you don't know of dual write, you'll know of dual write by the time all these sessions are completed. So we have dual write, and that is there, and that is required because I'll show you a scenario in a second. Not all scenarios can be done by virtual entities. Then we have these virtual entities or virtual tables. So in Dataverse, we call them virtual tables because that's what they actually are. They're one table. In F&O, we call them virtual entities because virtual entities are a combination of tables to show that set of data together. So it's combining multiple tables to one entity. And you know that, and you can access those through APIs today. So when we're using dual write, we're actually using those APIs to write data and validate data into the F&O tables. So those two have started, right? So now we look at further what we can do. So what we need to do is look at virtual entities and bring as many standard configuration for virtual entities for the use in Dataverse that makes sense. So I'm not sure, I think you've already talked about virtual tables. If you haven't, I'm sure you will talk about it, but the idea of this is I can show data within Dataverse, but the data is actually in F&O. So I'm not copying data from finance and operation to Dataverse as such, which is what Dual Write does. I'm actually exposing the data so I can use the data on forms, and I can CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete that data using the API as long as my security allows me to do it. So it's a way of exposing data. Now, I've done a project recently where I exposed 100,000 shipment headers into Dataverse, and it's as though it's actually in Dataverse. The performance of it's quite awesome, actually. But then we have the common data model. So when you look at the common data model, we have things like accounts and addresses, etc., like that already as part of the common data model. But then we need a common data model for companies, which we already have done. So we have a company entity or table that goes into Dataverse if you deploy the F&O solution. If you deploy the Business Central solution for virtual tables, it actually uses the same entity or table, as we call it. So we've got to expand that common data model to say, well, when you're working with our platform, this is what the standard setup is. And then we need to look at how do we enable that on the mobile, so offline enablement of that. So how can we actually use virtual entities and still enable offline? And then we also need to work out how we use business events. So much of this is already surfacing in the product or already been talked about. Then we get into things like security. So security is something that we often get asked about from customers and also from partners. Partners are aware of it, but we do have authentication. We do have service-to-service authentication, which basically means that when Dataverse or the Power Platform Dataverse is talking to the F&O product or customer engagement F&O, they can do that as a service-to-service and pass through the authentication of the user, making sure the authorization is and making sure the auditing thing is. Because for an end user, if I have to go and set security up in two different areas, which I do today, and then I have to audit two different areas, and I have two sets of different roles being applied, then it becomes very hard to kind of make sure that the user has got the right amount of security and not too much. So we need to work out a way to streamline that experience for the partners and for the customers using the product. And then it comes into storage. So when we get across from relational databases, files and blogs. So here's another example. So we have a customer implementing Dual Write here in Australia right at the moment, and their Dataverse storage has just gone ballistic. Basically, it's all of a sudden they've gone from using hardly anything to using a whole heap of data. And the challenge that's come out of this is they've actually got files and blobs that they need in both systems. So those files and blobs are being copied from F&O over to Dataverse, so they can access it in Dataverse. And that's a real challenge, right? Because now I'm paying for storage in both systems. How you handle log files, all the semi-structured data, where data lake comes into all of this, and then how do I search and find data? Which is almost very important. And then we get into the administration side of it. So the Power Apps Admin Center, so when I'm in the Admin Center, those of you that have played with project operations may have tried to deploy from LCS and push it out, and it goes in and deploys in the Dataverse, and it also deploys in F&O. And some of you may have actually done the manual version of it, where I'm deploying certain things in F&O and I'm deploying certain things in Dataverse to connect everything together and doing configuration in two different systems. So how do we bring that experience together to that one admin system? So how do we bring LCS plus the Power Platform Admin Center together? And then how do we get X++ forms and embed them in the unified client for customer engagement? So that's kind of part of when we're looking at to solve this problem. And then you come to the last component, which is extensibility, environmental life cycle, and ALM. So how do plugins work? How does Visual Studio come into this? And then how does the application lifecycle management all happen? And I would say as part of all this as well, one of the other major concerns I get from customers is the use of test suites and test applications and how you actually go and test the service, right? So how you do it in F&O is totally different to how you do it in customer engagement. And that really, really causes challenges from an implementation side. yes, you can use DevOps and you can have work items and test suites. You can have all that the same. But when it actually comes to running automated testing, we're just adding complexity for an outcome. So I was talking about an example just before, and this just will hopefully give you a little bit of an idea. So we still need something like dual right, because at this stage there is an entity in Dataverse called account that is used by the sales entity, and that exists. So we can't create a virtual table in Dataverse from a virtual entity in F&O where the name of that particular record already exists. Additionally, Dynamics 365 sales, customer service, field service are already using all these entities. So I can't just replace them with something out of F&O. Otherwise, the end result is now those applications don't work properly. But to give you an idea, one of the projects I've worked in recently with a customer and a partner, this is exactly what we're doing. We use the customer and the account. We synced the customer across to the account and bidirectionally. And in this case, we decided, okay, we're going to not use the sales orders or the orders that are in CRM. We're going to expose the sales orders and sales order lines and the items directly through virtual tables, which basically means that we have to go and remove some links and put in some new links and do some development or do some configuration here to do that. But what that meant is now this customer is getting a list, because their process is they actually enter orders by EDI into the F&O component. They go into the F&O component, but they need to see that in the customer engagement side as well. So instead of having those copied across, they're just shown as a virtual table, and that gives them the ability to drill down on an account or see all the sales orders and all the sales order lines that are in the system, as well as all the items without copying it all. It also means that if I put a sales order in customer engagement, it will actually validate the quantity and get the right price. The price will come back from F&O in that case. So there's advantages of doing it this way. Now, at the moment, that's a little bit, it's not really a hack, but it's a little bit of a workaround. Hopefully one day in the future that will be more succinct in what we're doing and more out of the box. And then everybody will get that experience, because when you're integrating customer engagement apps to F&O, especially around sales, the biggest thing that always comes up is inventory availability and pricing, because the pricing is much more complex in F&O than it is in customer engagement or sales app. And that's kind of where this kind of comes into play. This is why this is good from a future. We're actually able to technically solve some of the customers' challenges and asks these days that we weren't able to before. But as I said, we're working this out as we go, and we expect to do a lot more in the future. So I might pass over to Rachit to talk about the demo of the current UI unification capabilities.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. I think what you have told is we can all resonate to those type of scenarios where the challenges are similar in various implementations where dual right and virtual entities are used. And I think it's worth mentioning that it's not that one tool will solve all the problems. Every tool comes with its own benefits and limitations. So we have to decide when to use what. I will be sharing my screen now, and I'll show some current UI unification capabilities which exist in the ecosystem. So as briefly touched in the first session, that platform convergence is not only about bringing data together, it is also about bringing the user experience together of two different applications. So what we have done for this demo is I will be taking example of the model-driven app which Preeti created in our session number 1. We called it DLab Cruise Management, where we created some entities to manage reservations and cruise data. What we have done is we have enabled some virtual entities and brought the virtual entity data into a model-driven app. So this data which you see here is coming directly from FinOps using virtual entities. And as you can see, we can access the data of products, vendors, and it depends on how many entities you want to expose. But basically, you can see it's quite fast when it loads up. How we unify this experience. So now in this example, the data is coming into model-driven app without copying it into Dataverse through virtual entities. But there are capabilities existing in finance and operations where we can embed these apps. Now, most of you might be aware that we can embed Power Apps on the screens. So I'll just quickly show how we can do. So for this example, I'll take, let's say, employee survey template Canvas app, which is published by Microsoft. So the way we can embed is every Power Canvas app has a unique application ID. We can copy that. I'll just zoom in a bit just to make it a bit more visible. So we copy this application ID, and when you go to finance and operations, there are various ways you can embed the Power App. First, I will show you how we can actually do it inside a workspace, because what I have seen is people know how to embed it on a list page or a form, but there are ways we can embed these apps inside a workspace also. So what I'm doing is I'm opening the personal management workspace inside Dynamics. And what we can do is we can embed a Power App here, and it bakes into the workspace, and it gives you a feeling that it is actually part of the Dynamics application. So what we can do is we right click, click on personalize, and here we click on three ellipses and say add an app. Then we can choose a section. So for example, if I choose this section and I add a Power App, and here I can say employee survey, and I give this unique app ID. There is an additional thing where we can give an input context for the app. This is where we can pass some key identifiers from finance and operations to Power App, and we can choose the application size. So I've just inserted it, and as you can see that the app gets embedded inside my workspace. I'm just signing in. So every time if I go out and if I come back into the workspace, the app is loaded as a part of the product. And if these apps have like same color and look and feel, people will not even realize if they are working on a Canvas app or they are working inside finance and operations. So this is one capability where you can embed the Power App inside the workspace. There is one more way which I want to show you here, and this does not require any development. This what I'm showing is personalization capabilities which end users can directly do. Another way is if I click on these top sections here. So if I say employee, and I again give the app ID, and then I click on insert. So in this case, what happens is you will see I have the app available as a separate tab. So in case you have a big tablet size app which you don't want to load whenever you log into the page, you can embed it as a separate tab page inside your workspace. So that's one example where you can actually embed Power Apps inside your workspaces. There is another way where you can basically go to, let's say I go to all vendors form, and we will try to embed. So here it's, I think people know, have seen it this many times. So we can click on the add an app, and we can give the, I'm just taking an example. It's not a business process demonstration, but basically showing you the capabilities which exist. So here we can pass the controls. So whatever data fields are available on the form, we can pass it as a reference to the Power App. And then in the Canvas app, we can write some filter formulas by reading these context field values, and that will allow us to do some more advanced thing and basically filter the data. So here we can see how we can embed the Power App on the UI. Now this was around the Canvas app. So there were three types of apps which Preeti showed. We have Canvas app, model driven app, and portals. Um, so this was around Canvas app. Now I will show you how we can embed model-driven apps, because model-driven apps are a bit different in their architecture. And in order to embed a model-driven app, we have to enable a feature. So I'll quickly go to feature management. Okay. And that feature is still in preview mode, but it's about to be generally available. This particular full page apps. So you have to come and enable this. So now I have enabled a full page app feature in finance and operation. I'll just zoom in a bit. And how to enable or embed a model-driven app is the way I have used the application ID for the app. I can actually go and copy the URL. So let me take this example where we created this model-driven app in our previous session. Okay, so I'm able to see the data here. So I'll just copy this URL at the moment. And I go back to finance and operations. And what I can do now is I will right click on my workspace. I'll personalize and I will say, yeah, I'll add a page. And here I will get an option, see website. So this is coming by enabling that feature. When I click on website, I can say, okay, glab, just call it app. So I just give this that whole URL and I click on save. So now what happens here is I will be able to see a new tile on my workspace. And if I click this, the model-driven app will now start loading inside finance and operations UI. So you will see here now, I have not gone outside of finance and operations in order to access my model-driven app. And this opens up a lot of opportunities for users to embed their web pages inside their finance and operation workspaces so that if there are some in-house applications which they use a lot, they can quickly access them and they can do some things there. Just to take one more example, I will take another model-driven app, which is basically a standard template, let's say Solution Health Club. So even if the app is not based on your dual write or virtual entities, you can still go ahead and enable it. So you can do it more than one, like so. So there is no limitation here that how many apps you can enable or cannot enable. Sorry, it just goes resolution. So what we can do is, sorry, just add one more app just to show. So here we go add a page, click on website, and I can say solution. So imagine you have some internal portal for your HR systems or some portals to submit your expenses. You can embed your pages here and here. Now you can see I can access another model-driven app. So this is how the user experience is unifying, and we can do the things. Now, what I'll try to show you is I have come across few requests from customers where if they have to go on a standard form and let's say they have to enter the vendor information, it's too clumsy because you have to go to different tab pages and different screens, but they might want a simple UI to create such records. And for that, what we have tried to do is here I'm doing a demonstration where I'm actually going into a model-driven app. I will create a vendor record, and this is using virtual entities under the hood. So you can think about a scenario where you have to give a simple, clean UI to an end user to do something. You can have a virtual entity exposed, and they can do their task. So let's say, just for the example, I'm doing this. I will create a company, let's say TechVista, which deals in USD. So here I'm giving under which legal entity in Dynamics it gets created. And then I'll give an address. Let's say I'll give 570 Sandy Boulevard. And it's in let's say the state is Indo and the zip code is 972. It's on US data might come at the moment. Let's say email. So here you can just define everything here. If you have to do it in Dynamics, you have to go to a different tab page, create a contact type. Number, and let's say our Twitter handle is TechVista and URL. So now I'm creating basically a record using a virtual entity on the model-driven app, and then you can see my vendor account is created and my complete address is created. Now, if I go to my FinOps, let me just open it in a new window just to show you here. What the app has done is it has actually created a new record in vendor. It should have. So let's quickly go and filter on that vendor account number. So you can see my vendor is created, and if I go inside it, I can see my all the addresses created, my contact informations are created. So if I have to do it in Dynamics, I have to go and click add, enter the details, or if I have to go and define an address, I have to click on add and define the address. So instead of doing all this, how we have simplified the user experiences by giving them the key fields which they want to enter and simplifying their journey. And for a user, it really doesn't matter if he's creating a new vendor in a model-driven app, inside FNO or outside FNO, as long as the data is going to the destination in a proper way. So this was around embedding the model-driven app in finance and operations. I want to show one more thing, and I want to call out and a big shout out to our famous Dynamics community beloved member Andre, who shared it on YouTube a couple of weeks back. We can embed finance and operations web pages into Teams. So what I'm trying to show you here is I'll share actually my UG India Teams page here. It's our internal Teams. So what we have done is, like, just for this particular demo, we have embedded the page inside Teams. So what this brings is that it brings capabilities for users to work on finance and operations without leaving Teams, for example. So if they are doing something which they are, for example, calling a vendor and verifying their dates or something around their contact information. So here we can see that we can embed finance and operations page into Teams. So it's basically we just go click on plus and we create a new website and we enter the URL. So these URLs are driving this unification. And here inside, I might have a different user role and I can do my work. The benefit you get is you can start talking to your team members here and say, hey, I'm entering information for this vendor. Where can I find this code? Or you can basically get a link and share this link with your colleagues. So this enables some productivity in the end users. It brings the applications together. Unification is happening. We can see we can embed Canvas app, model-driven app, FinOps, Teams, everything into one another, and they are baking into each other very smoothly. So this is what I wanted to show how the unification from user interface perspective looks like. I'll hand it over back to Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Okay, thanks, Rachit. I think you deserve a applause for that. That was really good, and a really showing what we're talking about in real time. So well done, mate. I was really impressed by that.
Thank you.
So let me go and oops, wrong screen, and share the slide deck again. So I'm going to talk about the cross apps for the conversation as well, but now I'm going to talk about your convergence. So when I look at this, and this is an experience I had back in 2017, having been across what they called a cross-domain solution architect, people are normally strong in one or the other, right? Today, there's people that are very strong in customer engagement. There are some people that are very strong in customer engagement, but actually aren't that strong in Power Platform and in Canvas apps, for instance. But people are normally strong in customer engagement, or they're strong in F&O. I'll be honest, in the past, I mean, I've been doing other things for a little while now, but in the past I was much stronger in F&O than I was in customer engagement. Today I'm probably much stronger in the Power Platform than I am in F&O to a certain degree. I've got some history that helps me there. But from an architect perspective, to do the customer and to suggest the right solution. So, and what Rachit just showed is an example of that. The solution isn't always extending F&O, and the solution isn't always extending customer engagement, and the solution isn't always Dynamics 365 sales. So it is about having that architect. That solution architects don't normally need to be experts at everything, but they need to have a level of understanding in each platform and be able to be very good at leaning on experts when they need to. So the solution architecture tomorrow would have F&O experience, would have some customer engagement and Power Platform experience, and that is serving the customer right. Otherwise, what you do is you have two people, right? You have a customer engagement and a F&O person in every session you're having with a customer. And then on top of that, and this is a personal belief because I'm certified in F&O, I'm certified in components of Power Platform. I actually am certified in Azure as well. Am I fantastic at Azure? When it comes to functions and doing stuff with SQL, probably okay. When it comes to some of the cognitive services and a lot of the other stuff, containers, etc., Kubernetes, probably not great, right? I can follow instructions, but not necessarily implement any of that. And then the other one, which is on my roadmap to get certified in, is M365. So for me, the level of knowledge you can get, you don't have to be an expert in any of this, but the more knowledge you have about what it is about, the better you'll be able to work with your peers and with your customers, especially in the future. So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I'll ask Faisal to kind of come in and give some of his lessons learnt as well now.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. It's been a great show, and thank you so much, Rachit, for showing us some real-time convergence happening between finance and operations, Power Platform, and customer engagement. So this is where Microsoft and everyone is heading to, and we really, based on my experience, what Tim has talked about being the architect of a multinational implementation or a big implementation where you are playing a critical role between finance and operations and a customer engagement and Power Platform. So having my experience of around 15, 16 of experience completely on AX World and finance and operations, but recently got a chance to work on to one of the biggest implementation here in Australia and New Zealand. So where I came out of my comfort zone. What we are showing onto this particular slide here, it only has 3 little icons of a human being there, of a user, of a business user. But there is a long journey for being one of the other of these 3 users here. If you know finance and operations, and you have some convergence implementation where you are talking about finance and operations, Power Platform, customer engagement, and Azure. So you have to play your A game. So you have to come out of your comfort zone to understand how the other side of the application is working. I myself have learned a lot from during my big implementation, where I learned a lot from how the customer engagement work. What are the notions and terminologies we use in customer engagements? What are the plugins? What are the solutions? If we talk about only finance and operations, we can say we have packages here, we have the deployments here. But when we talk to the customer, we have to understand, we have to explain them. This is the whenever we going live, it's going to be a solution based. So you have to have your solutions there, and then you also have to, as a solution architect, you have to some extent, you have to have an understanding how that architect between both the application work, how you are going to create a better and a more suitable and long-lasting solution for the customer. As Tim mentioned and Rachit showed us today, is customization is not the solution for every problem. We just have to find out different terminologies, different technologies, different options available out of the box from Microsoft, how we can extend and we can reuse and repurpose out of the box functionalities there. One of the reasons, lesson learned, which I did, so we started our implementation with a data integrator, and at that time the CDS1 was implemented from Microsoft, and it was with the CDS1, the drawback which we faced, it used to have a one middleware database in between F&O and CRM. When I say CRM, it's actually a CE, or eventually it's a Dataverse. At that time, it's called a CDS. Now Microsoft changed the whole world and come up with a very brilliant ideas about having no middleware between F&O and CE database, which is a SQL database from F&O and Dataverse from the CRM world. The things went well. We tried implementing the dual write, and when I tried implementing the dual write, it wasn't generally available. So I'm pleased to share. We have Sunil Garg in our call today with us, and I was keep buzzing Sunil and all the other team members back in Redmond and the product team. This is how it's working. This is working, and the support which we got from Microsoft, that was absolutely marvelous. And they were all helpful. They just came onto the calls, responding to your emails all the time, and listening to the feedbacks which we were providing at that time. And then we learned a lot. How I myself, being a solution architect, I learned a lot how the CE works from the other side, how the solutions work, how the finance and operations, how we can make changes from the mappings point of view. And when you talk about these conversions, this cannot happen without Power Platform. So you eventually ended up of learning multiple things there. Is if you are finance and operations or AX guy, you will learn Power Platform, and you can also learn a CRM or CE. If you are a CE guy, you will learn the rest of the two. So my lesson learned would be, if you want to go out of your comfort zone, so you have to play your A game. So with this one, Rachit, if you can please share your next slide, please.
I think Tim is sharing the screen. Tim, can you move on to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So my key points will be for everyone: benefit every opportunity to learn. The events which we are running, and Rachit is actually leading the whole series of this Microsoft Convergence series here. It's marvelous. It's where we have people from Microsoft, we have people directly from the product team here joining us, and can answer all the questions here. So this is the best opportunity for everyone, where we can come forward, take an hour out of our busy life and learn. And then don't limit yourself. If you are working for so long, maybe 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, 15 years for only AX world, this is the best time to take this bus now and ride on to your Power Platform and customer engagement. There are so many free resources out there, but if you still find any limitations, feel free to reach out to any of us. You can reach out to me, Rachit. You can even reach out to Tim. You can reach out to Sunil Garg. Everyone is available, just an email away. So that's come down to learn and share. This is what we all have been doing. One is come down to sharing something, as Rachit has already played his A game, I will say A++ game today, sharing all the apps created into CRM, now how we can embed it. But there were a couple of questions in a chat window, how we can keep it, we can retain this one for all the users. Microsoft Docs article is the best place to find out every answer. So with this one, I'll just hand over back to Tim to summarize for us. And if there will be any sort of questions, please feel free to ask.
Thanks, Faisal. I think I would add one more to that, and I think, and this is something which I think we all share. I can see it in Faisal, I can see it in Rachit, and I can see it in a number of people. But the other thing is be kind, right? So be kind to each other. We're all here learning every day. We have a very strong release cycle is the word I would use for updating our apps and learning. We learn, Microsoft learns from our partners and our customers, and there's a learning going both ways. But definitely be kind to each other, because the reality is no one can know everything. It's okay not to know the answer. And I think I personally am very grateful to be invited today, because this is, what you can learn in an hour can make a lot of time savings, even as early as next week for many of you if you're involved in any of these sort of projects. So I think to wrap it up so we can go to QA, I'll just say thank you to Rachit Faisal and my colleague and friend who's online too, I think Pat Short, who got me involved in this. So thank you very much for inviting me to this. Yes, true to Faisal's word, if you do need help, I'm happy to get an email from you. And I'm more than happy to be reached out on LinkedIn, and if I can help, I will. And if I can't help, hopefully I can send you in the right direction for help. But once again, thank you very much. And should we go into Q&A?
Yes, I would like to thank Patrick here. I forgot to call his name out. I thought he's on leave, but he's really lovely and wanted to join a community. So thanks, Patrick, for joining us on your leave.
I am actually on leave, Faisal. I just decided that this is important for me as well because I have a PL 200 exam to pass, and all this information is still very important to me and relevant.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for your kind words.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Patrick. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let's take some questions. This question from Babar: can we add any external web page in FinOps as Rachit showed? Not all the web pages. It uses, I believe, iframes under the hood. So if the web page is having iframes enabled, you can definitely add it. So I tried with a couple of websites. I Googled and checked which websites have iframe enabled, and I was able to add them in. But it also comes with additional, if there are any additional securities which are implemented in-house of your enterprise, then also you might have to face those challenges. But yes, as long as iframe is enabled, you can embed it. Okay, are there any other questions? Faisal, you want to take any questions from the chat window?
So there were a few questions there, Rachit. I tried my best to answer a few of them. Like one of the questions people asked, like you showed us how you can embed the Power App completely right into the UI. But that I think so that's gonna be a personalization or a user specific. But how if we just want to retain it for all the users? So that might be an option. You can go and get in your AOT and add a web host, a web app host there, and it will just ask for the application ID.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Faisal.
Yep. So that was it.
Yeah, I think that's right, Faisal. So there are two ways. If you personalize, it is an end user experience where end user can do things for themselves, and if they like, they can share it with their team members. But if there is a requirement which you want to enable for the entire organizations, then we can hardwire these apps into the application by using extension framework. So we have flexibility from both the sides. And that's where solution architects come and give advice to the customers that, hey, if you want to use this app for 100 users, let's hardwire it rather than personalization. But if it is something, let's say an AP team has created just for improving their journal entries, maybe it's needed by 4 or 5 people, you can do with personalization. Okay. Let's see any other questions if we have missed from the chat window, or if anyone wants to unmute themselves, feel free to do that and ask the question. There's a question let me take a question from Amol. Can we add a particular page of FNO in Teams and manage the operation example user creation? Yes, once the page is embedded into Teams, you basically have the same experience. It's controlled by the security role, which you have in finance and operations. So if your security role allows you to create users, you can do that.
So I have a question regarding FNO and CE integration. Like the user wants to sync all the sales orders, for example, sales table as well as the sales lines. What is the best practice? Is it to bring all sales order and sales line together as an entity, or is it a best practice to bring them separately?
Yeah, it would be great because do you bring your sales headers first? If like there are multiple ways. If you really want to bring all the sales order headers and sales order lines in an initial sync, which is a batch process, not the live sync. So what it means here, if you are creating a sales order in finance and operations and your entity map or a table map, I would say table map, is running, then it's a live sync. So the moment you create a sales order header and the sales order line, and the moment you create a sales order header and it's saved, it will go and create the header and the line at the same time. But if you are talking about migrating already created some sales order headers and the lines, it would be nice. It would be better to use the CDS sales order header. I think so. This is out of the box. The entity map. No, sorry, not the entity map, table map. I keep saying entity map because Microsoft has changed the terminology to the table map. So it's better to sync all your sales order headers and the sales order lines.
So how is the change tracking enabled, to do the incremental push? How can we achieve that? Is it better to use the dual write, or is there any way like using the logic apps, using the business events?
It completely depends on your data volume. On the Microsoft Docs article, it actually categorizes where you should be using the dual write, where you should be using the data integrator, and where you should be uploading the data into both apps separately. So if you have around, I think so, maybe there is a limitation of 50,000 something. Don't quote me on that one, but if you please refer back to the Microsoft Docs article under the dual write synchronization process, it actually explains you if you have that certain number of records, if you want to sync from one app to another, if you have that maybe let's say 50,000, you can sync from FO to CE. But if you have more than those ones, it's better to upload into finance and operations separately, upload separately into CE, then do not run the initial sync.
Okay.
But this is out of the box. There was a business requirement where we implemented. We were having some custom processes. Let's say you have your sales order in FNO, you are creating a sales order, let's say any document name you call it, but I'm referring as a sales order into CE. But at the creation of a sales order in CE, you also want to trigger some plugin or some workflow there or a business process there, which is again custom to your business requirement. In that scenario, you have to put all those things on a tables while designing the solution. Says, if I will be uploading this data separately into CE, all my workflow solutions are going to work or not.
Okay, that was helpful.
Yeah. And Naveen, I would like to add, there is no best practice here. You have to identify which tool you need to use. So if you need a real-time synchronization between CE and FNO, you can use dual write. But if you are having some de-linked processes, you can use data integrator or you can use logic app. So the best practice is, it's not about best practice here, it's about which tool you should use in your scenario. So, and all these can coexist. It's not that you are using dual write, then you cannot use data integrator.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We'll take the next question. There's question from Ravi. Sorry, why do we have limits? Sorry.
Next question from Abdul Rahman about, can we get a free access, a trial instance to explore the virtual entities in both FNO and CE? Yes, so I read out questions to you, Rachit, if you want to answer. Otherwise, I can take all those questions. So can we get a free access, a trial instance to explore the virtual entities in both FNO and CE?
So you can host trial environment for customer engagement, and for exploring finance and operation, you might have to refer to Microsoft website. There are some partner-led programs which Microsoft is running where partners can host their own tier 2 environments. So it's always good to rely on either your employer to talk to them how we can get one, but you can always spin up your own Azure subscription and host an environment. There are few ways where you can host trial environment of finance and operations, which has some limitations. We are using trial environment, but we are good to do these demos. So I would say, yeah, I mean, if you have to refer to doc site to go more deep into it, but yes, there are ways to host trial environments.
Yeah, so further to this question, I just shared one blog article of myself where I just pointed out a couple of ways how you can go to the CE and finance and operations trial environments. But again, those will be the UI subscription environment. You can't have the virtual machine where you can explore the development activities. But have a look onto this article, and again, as Rachit mentioned, go back to the docs article if you find anything. And again, if you don't find anything, you can always reach to us, and we are happy to help you out wherever we can.
Yeah, and also search for, there are Microsoft Azure sponsorship programs which are run by Microsoft. So if you are an MCT, for example, you can claim a Microsoft Azure sponsorship pass. So I think Umesh did a session recently where he showed how you can do it on YouTube. So if you search on YouTube with Umesh name, you'll be able to find that video. So try to leverage these programs. You get some Azure sponsorships in many different streams. So search for them, and that can help you to host your own Azure portal on trial basis for a few months or weeks. That can help you to explore things further. Yeah.
So next question is, we have issue related to sync of date and date time fields to dual write in IST time zone in implementation of project operations, but time is not syncing properly. Can I have little clarity that how that works? Yes, so that is an issue between date time and date format between two different apps. What we like in CE, it's not, I think so, it's storing into a different data type. But the workaround which I implemented just to get it working, creating a string field, putting that into the FNO and CE separately, and sync those string field, and later we had to change the time zones. So that was just a workaround. But this is what I also faced an issue with the date time and the time between C and FNO, because the way both apps saves this date time format.
Yeah, actually, the data stores the time in GMT time zone specifically, and it syncs with the FNO and GMT time zone only. So whenever I'm entering the data for the particular 2nd of October, so it will in the Indian time zone and at CE side, and it gets converted to for the 1st October.
Yes, because
in FNO side.
Yeah, in FNO, we have the date time into the UTC format. So we always have the date, let's say 2nd of October 2021, then we will have 4:55:00. So it actually saves with the complete date and time. In CE, it saves in a different format. So that's why it always gets confused, and try to, whenever we pass the data, it actually try to convert into the UTC format, and sometimes it doesn't match the actual proper date. Yes. Or the here.
Yes.
Yeah. So Taral, I have shared my email address in the chat window. Can you please send me some details around your problem statement and some screenshots on the results you got? I think we can take it offline and dig deep into it.
Rachit. Sure. Thank you.
Next question, Rachit. Can we handle the security of embedded app?
So can you elaborate on what you mean by security? So security has multiple aspects, right? App user can have his own security defined in the Power App Admin Center or for that particular app. There can be security in finance and operations. So when we are embedding the UI at the moment. We are not defining any additional security layer on top of it. So whatever security user has access to as a part of accessing the Power App, he will still retain that. Whatever security you have for finance and operations, and if you are embedding it into Teams, you will still have that. There is no additional security here. The only thing is you might have to check if you want to restrict users from embedding an app. I've seen some companies have that requirement. That's where you might have to see or tweak some security roles in finance and operations so that they cannot personalize and embed it. But I think by doing that, you are basically cutting the hands of end users and saying, hey, don't be creative, just do what you're trying to do. So that's another thing. But yeah, as of now, from unification perspective, when you are embedding apps, you are just basically bringing the UI together. You're not enforcing any additional security. I hope that answers.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
that's my view of, yeah.
So next question, I'll just quickly take it to you, Rachit, is what about the licensing when we embed Power Apps in FinOps? I think so that's quite similar what you have explained as of now. So licensing is completely different. Power Apps and the financial operation licensing works differently. And the next point is, will the same Power Apps licensing model apply or would it be different? Like it is definitely it's going to be different model, not the financial operations model licensing. So Power Apps licensing works differently compared to financial operation licenses or separately. So Dr. Ludwig has a question, still wondering whether you have insights to in how many data are exchanged in DuerWrite. Where can we find out details about the exchanged data volume? It completely depends on the implementation to implementation, how much data you have already exchanged between the applications. If I understand the question correctly, Dr. Ludwig, if you are still here, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Yeah, hello, Faisal. So my question is just if we have some statistics or some general information on how many data are typically exchanged for a, I would say, mid-sized customer.
Mm-hmm.
Can we find out the volume, and if so, where can we find that? That's what I'm interested in.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know any way where you can have these insights right into the Power Apps. We have some insights into Admin Center where you can go and find out the data entities name here and clicking onto those insights analytics, Rachit. If you go to the analytics,
that's what I was saying.
Yeah, and go to the data. There is a Microsoft does show you the under Dataverse and API calls, and if you will see here data entities onto the top somewhere. So this is the statistics and the analytics which we have out of the box coming into the Microsoft side, entity usage. So what you have to find out, because that's a very tedious task here, you have to figure it out what data entities you are using between finance and operations and CE for DuerWrite, and then have to find out this what data volume. But there is no a state way which I can think of. I think so if Sunil can add some value here, if he is able to talk. Otherwise, we are happy to take all these questions as Rachit requested, and we can come back to you later after hearing back from Sunil.
Yeah, I think I would only add there is in the Power Platform Admin Center, you will have analytics available for your company, and especially for data integration and Dataverse, you can get some numbers. But I have not seen any white papers from Microsoft. And that's where, yeah, I think Dr. Ludwig, we can check with Sunil or Patrick or Tim and try to get some questions answered.
So we got next question from Tushar. Do we have FNO entities table in Dataverse CDS similar to CE and share those with other model-driven apps? Do we have FNO entities tables in Dataverse CDS similar to CE? So that's a different concept. Tushar is actually. I can also explain to Tushar on Tuesday when he comes back to office, because he's my project manager. So. In FNO we have data entities. It's a combination of multiple tables, as Tim mentioned. In FN, in CE, it's a separate tables. So I can demonstrate you, but I think so. These are the two different concepts. In CE, it's a table, one table, but in FNO, it's a combination of multiple tables that becomes a data entity. This is what we call in a SQL language, we call a view. A combination of multiple tables.
Sure. Thank you, Faisal.
Yeah. So Tushar, what I'm showing you here is you can actually get access to all the public data entities exposed by finance and operations as virtual entities in your Dataverse or in your CE environment. So you basically have to go here like I'm doing. You have to find your entity and go inside and enable it. Once you enable that, what happens is that particular entity is shown in your Power Apps Dataverse as a table here. So if I come here, and we have a detailed session on dual write and virtual entities, which Faisal and Amna will be giving. So if you search here, so for example, this is a virtual entity which we have exposed in CE. So that's how this whole experience works. And this has simplified a lot recently. Previously, I remember when Faisal started exploring these tools, you have to install these solutions manually, but now it's all baked into like one-click experience. So we have a detailed session on dual write and virtual entity in few weeks. I think the next to next week. That's where you can find out more details, Tushar.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Do we have more questions?
Joining. And we got a couple of more questions in a chat window that's about the ETA and when it's going to be available. And I'm really thankful to Sunil taking his time out from, like, he's out of office nowadays, but he has already responded all the questions. So, but if anyone still have any question, feel free to put into a chat window, guys.
I see one question from Ravi. Why do we have limitation on number of parameters passed to Canvas app from FinOps? So Ravi, I would say this limitation has increased because previously, like a couple of months back, we were only able to pass one field, but now recently we are able to pass the company context also. So the objective of passing limited number of field is that we don't want to overwhelm Power Platform, development experience by exposing a lot of things. We pass the key information which is useful in your Power App. So for example, what we did in past is, because we don't have PCF controls in FNO, we have PCF controls in Power App. We created a Power App where we just passed the customer account number, which was enough for Power App to do the next step. So what you have to do is identify what is that is needed by Power App from FNO, because you can always query back based on the unique field and fetch more data using Power Automate or Logic Apps. So that's how the experiences are building. Again, the objective is not to expose everything everywhere, otherwise it becomes unmanageable. I think we have to keep an eye on how Microsoft releases more features in this space. But I hope that answers your question. Cool. So yeah, thanks for asking all these questions, guys. This is why we are here, to get your questions, try to brainstorm together. We are not saying what we are saying is not right, like maybe we are just telling out of our experience and our thought process around it. So feel free to send us your questions. I have shared my email address in the chat window, rachit.garg@d365ugindia.com. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn and be a part of our user groups and post your questions there. Let's take a couple of more questions and then we can wrap up. And yeah, thank you, Tim, Patrick, and Sunil for joining. It's fun.
And interestingly, Rachit, Patrick, and Sunil both are on leave, but they have joined us. So really appreciate. Thank you so much, guys.
Cool. All right. So
great session, team. Really good session.
Last question. We got one more question, Rachit, here. If you want to take that question.
Yes,
by default, Dataverse relational database capacity is 10 GB. If required, how can we extend the storage beyond the standard capacity? You have to buy it. Also, I would appreciate to have some insight on how to deploy the model-driven app to production environment. So that will be deployed through a solution, because all the applications and everything will be deployed through a solution into the customer engagement environment. So that's the beauty of the platform Convergence, because as I started, like I and Rachit started our career in AX world in Melbourne 6 or 7 years ago. So working, sitting together, writing so many X++ code days and nights, now we can talk about how the CE world. So that's amazing. Like we can say, okay, you have to deploy the things through solutions.
Yeah, That's only I can answer. I can't answer beyond that, right? If you ask me to deploy, probably I won't be able to do, but yes, I think solutions are the way. And this is what Preeti showed us in the first session. So if you want to see more about it, you can refer to the first session recording, which is available on our YouTube channel.
I just quickly wanted to take a moment here. So I'll share my screen quickly here, Rachit, please.
Sure, go ahead.
So as part of this learn and share experience, which I did talk about, so what we are also doing on the Pakistan user group is actually running the training program now. So this training program is starting from end of this month, October, and we are focusing people who are non-IT professionals, accountants, not the accountants like Satya, because he's an experienced and someone like outstanding person. Accountants who really want to upskill themselves and see their career into the Microsoft stack. So the whole idea is we will provide you a complete platform. We will let you drive the environments. We will guide you how you can get your free trial environments from CE, FNO, Power Platform, and also the Azure subscriptions. We will start from very basic. We will tell you how you can create an environment into CE, how you can create your tables, model-driven apps, Canvas apps, portals, and then deploy the solutions. Similarly, in finance and operations, we will explain to you from the very basic level. There will be a multiple tracks, technical and also functional tracks from finance and operations perspective. In Power Apps, we have so many different sessions. So we are going to announce the complete contents very soon. So keep eye on our Pakistan user group. And it's not only a one group is doing, Rachit is also the part of Pakistan user group. So we are all working together for a big community across the world, staying outside of India and Pakistan. We are actually spreading the knowledge and providing the platforms for our own home countries, our motherlands. So that's a great opportunity. Feel free to register yourself. As you can see, the first step is just to register. And then we leave it to us, and then we will provide you all the details with the contents, how to join, where to join, and then you just have to learn from all the professionals. So that was about our next initiative, which we are working on it, and hopefully we will all see you there. With this one, thank you so much, Rachit. Over to you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks everyone for the interesting Q&A. I'll just take a couple of minutes just to tell you what's coming next. So this was session 2, and the next session we have is on 9th October, which is next Saturday, where we will be talking about business events in Dataverse, which is a new upcoming feature, which is still in preview mode. But we will be talking about what is the whole idea behind exporting business events in Dataverse. And we will also talk about, from finance and operations perspective, what are business events, how you can configure, and we will do some demo there. So the same meeting link can be used if you have registered using our Microsoft Forms. You must have got the session invite. So stay connected with us for a couple of more weeks. We are trying to cover as much as we can under this platform Convergence umbrella. That's all I have for today. If anyone wants to unmute or say something, feel free to do that.
I will request to say a few last words from Tim, if possible, please.
Tim's always got lots of words to say, so we can all finish in about half an hour now. No, I think I probably said everything before, but I just will repeat. I think I really do appreciate being invited to be part of this group and talk today, and working with you, Rachit, and Faisal's been awesome. And anything we can do to help would be great. I just love the fact that you're sharing across the continents, and it's really amazing. I can imagine how much time that takes of your personal life. It's really amazing. It's really, really good. And I think, it's been an excellent session for me. So expect to see me showing up and learning some things in some of more of these sessions that you've got for myself, which will be really good. And yeah, I'll just finish on my new trademark, which is just be kind to each other, right, and help each other out, which is exactly what you're all doing here. So thank you very much for involving me.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Sunil, and everyone who has joined this session today on a weekend, taking out time and connecting with the community. So we wish you a good weekend and stay connected. And I see there is a link to register. Abdul, if you go on to our LinkedIn group, you will be able to find. Otherwise, I can send you one. Just drop me an email, please. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sunil. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do a roadmap session.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Stop recording.